What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. Welcome, Liam Snell.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, sir. This is a huge honor. We have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started.
Sounds great. Thank you.
So, do you remember when you first began to stutter?
Well, actually, I'm a lifelong stutterer, but I think the my first vivid memory was when I was in second grade. I was playing Pop Warner football, so I was about 7 years old at the time, and I was playing quarterback for uh, my team, and I was in the huddle with my teammates, and I was trying to call the offensive play, um, and I just couldn't say the play. I stuttered and I mumbled over my words. And I remember one of my teammates, he said, "Hey, coach, every time Liam tries to say the play out loud, he makes this sound." Um, and so that was my first memory of it. I think that I've experienced stuttering throughout my entire life, but that was my first memory when I was about 6 or 7 years old in second grade.
Does it run in your family? Are there any other family members who stutter?
Yes, my one known family member was my grandfather on my father's side. Um, he unfortunately passed away about 10 years ago, and I never really got to speak with him. Probably spoke with him a couple times over the phone, very briefly, but really don't remember how how he spoke. But from what I've from what I know, he was actually a lifelong stutterer, as I am as well, and he was able to live a successful life. He was in real estate. He did very well in that. Um, he had a house in Florida. Um, he had a wife, so he was able to live life normally. He was in the Navy during World War II, uh, so he was able to go through that, um, you know, hardship in World War II. So from what I know, he was a lifelong stutterer, and I think when I spoke to him last, when I was very little, I think I did notice some of his stuttering was still there, but he was able to still live life in a successful way.
Wow. From one veteran, you know, to your grandfather, what a huge honor. A World War II veteran. That's just wow. A hero, a hero.
Yes,
Whew.
and thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, sir. Now, have you ever had speech therapy in school or possibly out of school? And if you did, was it helpful?
Yes, I actually received speech therapy throughout my entire grade school career when I was in kindergarten through um, 12th grade. I would meet with a speech therapist about once a week for about 30 minutes each, for each school week. I don't think my speech therapy when I was in grade school really helped me that much. And I think mainly because of me as well, because I was just a very young kid. I didn't really understand, how to go about this or how to fix this. Um, but yeah, I think more of these. I think these my school therapy sessions were. It was more of like a therapy session rather than a fluency session. So it was just like, tell me about your problems. And the speech therapists were very empathetic, but I don't think it helped me that much. But after high school, I did attend Holland's Communications Institute in Roanoke, Virginia, and I'm sure you're very familiar with that program. But this definitely helped me tremendously. I've learned a couple of techniques that I used, and it's definitely propelled me into being more fluent. And this program was very intense as well. It was 12 consecutive days. You were there, and you arrived at 8 a.m. And you were there until 4:30 p.m. And you were just speaking the entire time. You're practicing your speech the entire time, and you were also throughout the most of the day. You're in these cubicles, and um, you were speaking to the computer system, and this would help you. This would help you your speech. But I do think my time in Roanoke definitely helped me, and I'm glad that I went there. And also one of the main benefits of going to that program was I've still I still have kept in contact with a couple of my classmates from there, and it's always great to catch up with them, and we still talk on the phone on like a monthly basis here and there, and talk about our issues and our problems. And it's also great practice too whenever we have a chance to talk to each other, because I think whenever you have a chance to talk to someone and talk out loud, I think that it's good practice for you. If it's good practice to try to be on a path towards fluency. And but yeah, I think my time in Roanoke will definitely help me the most.
Now, okay, you were dropping some golden nuggets, which I wrote down. I'm writing down
No.
notes. It's so I want to just tackle them just one by one. All right. So, okay, during your speech therapy, they focused on the therapy aspect of it. When I was in speech therapy, Liam, it was the opposite. I mean, they wanted to have me be fluent, and you know, going to speech therapy for me, like I went all through school, and then I also had some in college, and then when I was in the military, I met with a hypnotherapist. So what you're hearing is 20 years of just really hard work. So when you were talking about going to speech therapy in school, how did they pull you out? Because when I was in school, I mean, back in the early the early 1970s, and then in the 80s, there was a huge PA, and the principal's office would call out Pedro Pena for speech therapy, and the entire school heard. And so here I am, 5 years old. I'm 6 years old. I'm hearing this, and then whatever was happening in class, they had to halt it, and then the teacher would have me get up and collect all my belongings and go to the office. And I mean, that was like pouring salt on the wound. So you are much younger than I am. I think I'm like twice your age, but how did what was the process to pull you out, and how did that have an impact on you in school?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of both. I think when I was little, I might have been pulled out of class for it. But I think when I was in high school, I just I just went during my lunch period, I think. But I definitely relate to you though, as it could have been it was embarrassing at times too when they would call your name, for stuttering, and you know, and I know that I never wanted to I guess um, admit or to make public that I'm going to speech therapy. I don't know. It's just something that I didn't want to. I didn't want many people to know. And especially like in high school too, when I was involved with sports and everything like that, and I was still going to this speech therapist. But yeah, I think it was a mixture of both. And luckily, during my high school, I think it was just you can go, anytime during a lunch period if you want. Um, I don't think it was required in high school. I think it was really up to my discretion, especially once I was older, like 17, 18 years old. But yeah, I think it was a mixture of both. But I can definitely relate to your experience there.
Y- y- I mean, schools, school is hard enough, for everybody. However, if you have a stutter, I mean, just it gets piled on, and then you have the peer pressure, and everything else. I'm glad that you found sports, that way, it gave you some kind of outlet to hang out with kids, and you know um plus interact. And so I'm glad that you had that. Okay, going back to your therapy, you were talking about you had attended Roanoke. What what are the techniques that you use m- m- most often to help you out speech wise?
There are a couple of techniques that I use. Like you mentioned before, breathing is very important. Um, so often I try to really breathe. Whenever whenever I'm anticipating a very stressful speaking situation, like if it's a job interview or if I know that I'm going to have to speak at some point, I try to get into a rhythm of breathing, and I think that definitely helps as well. Um, and there were two techniques that they taught us. One was the stretch syllable technique, and one was the amplitude contour technique. And both are very helpful, and I still use them. The amplitude contour technique is when it's when you vary your speaking tone, so you can start off at a very low pitch, and then you can increase it. Um, and by doing that, I think it sometimes it can help just get the words out. And then also the other technique is a stretch syllable technique where you really try to stretch out the syllables like that, like a very exaggerated um, tone like that. So those are the main two techniques, and I think they've definitely helped me. And the breathing is very important too, as you know, and you should I've learned too that whenever you speak, you should breathe first, and breathing does help. Breathing on your exhale, inhalation, that also helps tremendously. Um, so those are the techniques that I've learned there.
See, and that is awesome, Liam, because that's what I learned in doing diaphragmatic breathing. They taught me to do the long inhale, and then on the exhale, I'm going to speak, and whatever comes out, wackadoo, wackadoo. It's there. However, it, it took me a while to, you know, l- to lose that robotic tone. But I mean, you know, my motto is, you know, it is important to practice, practice, practice. Many people tell me that practice makes perfect, but I I don't believe in perfection. What I believe in is that practice makes permanent. So, as you just keep on doing it, and you had made a profound point earlier. And believe me, I'm writing everything down because what you are doing, you are just dropping gold, sir. You're dropping, you know, I mean, golden nuggets. You were talking about reading out loud. I do that every day. One page, one page. I read out loud. That way I get into the habit. I'm into the practice. That way when I do it the next day, it's like rote memory. I grab the book, I grab a page, I read it, I'm good to go. So yes, yes, yes. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, do you have any advice for parents and teachers with regards to children who stutter?
Yeah, I think my advice to parents would just be patient with them, be patient with your son or daughter. Um, Try to listen for what they have to say and try to handle that accordingly. Um, yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, for parents who are unaware of this because stuttering, from what I know from the statistics, only about 1% of the world's population, have a stutter. So, I mean, it's not like completely rare, but there are many people who are very unaware of what stuttering is. I mean, they know what it is, but they don't know the conditions, or any of the reasons why it happens. And I've had many teachers too, in school who were impatient with it. They were impatient with stuttering, and they didn't understand it at all. They didn't understand what it was. They're like, just it's okay, Liam. You can just not be nervous. It's okay. It's just us. Just speak slowly, and that will cure everything. But obviously not. So I think teachers and parents both, definitely understand, all the elements to it because, I know many people who don't, and that's very frustrating, and, um, just try to just try to make it a better understanding of that, I think is the key thing there.
See, and that is that is great advice. And um going back to school, okay, d- did you have to read out loud? you know did the teachers pick you to read? And if that happened, how did you handle it? How did you deal with it?
Oh yes, plenty of times I was forced to read. I think like in middle school was a time when I had to read out loud the most. It was like a pop read thing, so we would read a book or a textbook or whatever it was, and we would just go around the room, and everyone would take a turn to read a page or a passage or a paragraph. And yeah, I have many moments where when it was my turn to speak, um, I just stuttered like throughout the entire paragraph. My face was all bright red and everything. I was making all of these face, gestures, and it was just horrible. And there's many moments too when the class was just in an awkward environment. Like you could just tell that people were cringing. Like, is Liam okay? Like, why is he making these sounds? Like, why is he this nervous? Like, it's just reading a he's just reading a book. Um, and we would do this too. We would probably do this. We would probably read out loud like once a week. So going to class every week was just painful. Just the anxiety. Even the night before, even the night before of going to class, I could just feel the anxiety. Like I know I'm going to have to read, and I know I'm going to suffer, and I know I'm going to have to deal with this, and it was painful, and it was really tough. It's and the anxiety would be there until I was done reading, and it would last from the night before. throughout the end of the day of the school. So that was tough. A lot of anxiety there.
Ooh, okay, Liam. Let me tell you what happened to Pedro. I was hearing everything and I could feel it. Liam, everything that you were telling me, I felt it. All of those 12 years just all coming back to me. I had to read out loud. Well, one time, Liam. And I mean, like you said, I stumbled on everything. I would have weird facial ticks and jerks. And I mean, I was red also. My chest was hurting. I was sweating and I could hear just everyone laughing. And then I told myself in the first grade, I'm 5 years old, Liam. I said, this ain't never going to happen again. And so every time that I had to read out loud, I would raise my hand and go into the restroom. I spent the majority of my school, I kid you not, Liam, in a restroom stall because you don't, you do not forget that type of trauma. You don't. And you were talking about the A word, anxiety. It had such power. Liam, let me tell you, Liam, it had power over everything. It would cripple me. And I mean, to just think about that, I had to read, the next day, I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't sleep, I would have headaches. I mean, yeah. So how Pedro handled it, because it's called survival, Liam. I had to survive in the 1970s, in the 80s, in the 90s. Pedro had to survive. And so how I did it, I would raise my hand and just hang out in a restroom stall. My teachers thought I had a medical condition. It's okay, because Pedro has to survive. And, but I mean, you know, uh, um, that's how I would handle it. I mean, we're all different on our on our journeys. I know we all have that common denominator that we have a stutter. However, our journeys are different. So, yeah, school was just a little rough for Pedro. And that A word, Liam, that A word, it followed me all the way to college, in undergrad and graduate school. Um, when we did, school, projects in 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 groups. Let me tell you, Liam, I was a car salesman, so I would tell them, I'll do all the work. I'll do all of the PowerPoint. I'll do everything in Word. I will do everything, but y'all have to talk. And they said, sure, it's all good. So, I mean, that's how Pedro had survived all the way in undergrad, 4 years of undergrad and graduate school.
Wow.
I mean, it's called survival.
And yes, I definitely relate to you there. How I used to go to the bathroom whenever, so like whenever I was like, okay, so there's only two people left before me who have to read. I'll just go to the bathroom right now. So then by the time I get back, they'll have passed me. And I think that that's a good point too from the other question too, where your teachers thought that you had a medical problem. I just wish they were more understanding of stuttering, and maybe that was I wish that that was brought to their attention, and they could do something else. But it's also a tough topic though too, because if you if you let the student not read and skip over them, and also that creates some anxiety too, because all the other kids are like, wait, well, why are they skipping over him? Everyone else is reading. And if you're at a young age, you don't really understand that. Um, but there was times too though in school when I was just skipped over because of that, and they're like, wait, why was Liam skipped? It doesn't make any sense. Everyone else, is Liam receiving the special treatment or something? Like, why is that happening? And also too, I can relate to your point how you used to do everything for the group. I always said that I was a good writer and I could write, like an essay. I can do all of that administration work, and then everyone else can present what I type up. So I definitely done that as well.
Oh, yes. Because, I mean, what I tell everybody, I tell the whole world, people who stutter, we are creative, we are resilient, and we are resourceful. Okay. Think of us like MacGyver, we will make it happen however that we need to make it happen. So, yeah, those were the days. Okay. Now, let's change up gears a little bit. So, okay, job wise, okay, had you ever experienced dis- discrimination because of your stutter? I know legally it's hard to prove and, da, 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 but I mean, we know, Liam, come on, we know. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I really don't know the answer to that. But I am wondering though that I probably have. I've been on many in job interviews where I've never heard back from them, and when I got rejected, when there's sorry, your application doesn't, isn't as attractive as other candidates. But no, I mean, I truly wonder though, if behind my back they're like, listen, we don't want to hire Liam because, obviously he has a communication issue, and this role requires you to be, communication sound, and we just don't feel comfortable, hiring him. And then they could just say, they could just give you a different reason for not hiring you. So I truly wonder if I ever was turned down from that, and I would not be surprised if if I was.
See, and, you know, growing up, I always heard that I was slow because of my stutter, that I was stupid, and that I would never, amount to anything. So, if you hear that year after year after year, you kind of tend to believe it. So, I'm after high school, I took jobs in data entry. There's no human interaction. They give you a stack of work, have all this put into the database. No problem. However, Liam, there was a problem. When the front admin person had to go on break, you know, or I'm on their lunch for half an hour, they would ask over the PA who can help out, who can answer the telephones, da da da. I ran to the stall, Liam, my old BFF from school. I ran into the restroom stall because that's where I felt safe. No one can hop in and pull me out and tell me to go handle the telephones. No, no, no. They all knew, oh, he's in the restroom. It must have been, I don't know, a burrito. Who knows? But he's in the restroom. And that is how I survived in the job world. And I mean, um, you were talking about job interviews. I bombed so many job interviews, Liam. I mean, there were times where I would hyperventilate, and the other person would just happen to have a bag to help me breathe in. There were times when I would have a block, my eyes would close, I would stop breathing, and then, I would get a little dizzy. And I mean, I know that, I mean, I missed out on some really awesome jobs. But you were talking about your job interviews. Did you ever dis uh, dis dis close your stutter in in these job interviews?
Yes and no. So there have been many interviews where I think that um, my speech was clear enough that I didn't find a reason to include that. But there's also other job interviews where it was very bad. Like even I think I had a job interview like last year at some point. It was in person, surprisingly too because of COVID and everything. And you had to wear a mask. You're sitting down wearing a mask, and and you're in the job interview, and like that interview was horrible. I just stuttered severely, on every other syllable. I would stutter, and it got to the point where it was so bad that I had to tell them, like, look, I'm okay. I'm not in any need of medical attention. It's just I'm a person who stutters, and you know, it's fine. But yeah, there's been other times too where I didn't feel a need to disclose it. Um, and there's many people too who believe like if you choose to disclose that you stutter, that it's a weakness. They're like, oh well, you're admitting that you have a communication issue, and I disagree with that. It's everyone has something that they have to deal with, and if I do bring it up, I will turn it into a strength. So sometimes I'll disclose it at the beginning of the interview, and then later on in the interview, they'll ask that basic interview question: what's your biggest weakness? I'm like, well, but my weakness, is from what you might have tell already. I do have a stutter, so I might have a little bit of a communication um, problem there. I might stumble over a few of my words, but I have hit this head on, and I've been successful since then, and I'm improving with it. My fluency has improved over time. I've been able to go through college. I've been able to hold down jobs. I have friends. I've had relationships. So this is not going to get in the way of this job, at least. So I try to turn it into a strength whenever they do ask me about that. Um, but yeah, just try to say that you're improving, and this does not define you at all, and that's what all PWSs should realize as well.
See, and that is truly awesome because I mean, people don't understand how strong we are. Woo! We are courageous, Liam. We don't give up. We do
Yes,
not. I mean, if you knock us down, guess what? We're getting back up
getting back up.
because we know that we are strong and that we are going to do it. And then talking about, you know, jobs. Oh, those. Okay, you know, back in my day, we had newspapers, the paper ones, and the job ads. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it had on there must have excellent, you know, uh, you know, uh, com- communication skills. And so I would have a red pen and I would just have those all crossed out. And by the end of the day, Liam, there were like a couple of jobs left, data entry and janitorial. I said, well, I can do data entry because I love, you know, um, working on PCs and typing and everything. You know, I can do that. And in my job interviews, I can't hide this. There's no way, Liam. I can't hide this at all. So the first half of my job working history, I mean, I bombed. However, after a certain point, I disclosed. I would tell them, hey, good morning. I'm Pedro Pena. I have a speech impediment, so I have a stutter. So if at any time, if I get hung up on any word, give me 8 hours and the word will come out. And when they laughed, I knew I got them. I got them. They have a sense of humor, they have integrity and professionalism, so I will be okay. So after I put that out there, I was like, okay, I got this. And they would ask me questions, I would give them answers. And so I would get hung up on couple of words, but I pushed through. And that's when I realized, just tell them, I can't hide it. And like what you had made an excellent point. It is not, I repeat, it is not a weakness. It is a strength because it teaches us that it having a stutter doesn't define who you are. And you made that point perfectly. It doesn't define who we are. It's just what we have. Okay. We are highly educated and capable. I mean, we can do anything in this world. I just have a stutter.
Exactly.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and that's one excellent point too that you made, that you try to humor them too as well about it. Like it's always great trying to make them laugh. At that point, that's a really good sign. And it just shows too that you're not defeated about it. You're just telling them about it. And you're dealing with it, but you're just able to push through. So that's definitely a good point. And you turn it into a strength because they laugh about it. So that's definitely a great point too.
Right. Plus that mice breaker, it works every time. You may borrow it. Works every time. All right. So let's talk about some ADLs.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, these are activities of daily living. Okay, so we will have it tackled pre-COVID and then during COVID. So, how did you handle the telephone? How did you handle restaurants and then drive-throughs pre-COVID and during COVID?
Um, Telephones. I've always felt that telephones were actually easier than like in person than drive-throughs, or if you're talking to someone in person. So I think I've always had a better time talking on the phone as opposed to in person. But uh, I think pre-COVID, my fluency level was worse than it is now. Um, and I think that's because I've practiced a lot more since then, and I've been talking out loud a lot more. So before I approach a phone call, I do try to practice and talk out loud, so that just warms me up a little bit. So now I'm able to better deal with that, and there's also less anxiety with it too as well, because because you don't see the other person on the other side. You're just talking to them. But you could also argue though too that there's more anxiety with it because they don't know who you are, and timing is also an important thing too. Like if you're trying to say something, they might not know it because they can't see you, they can't see your face moving or anything. Um, so you could argue that that could also be a negative too. But I think on the phone, um, I'm better with it. Um, at restaurants, I seem to not really have much of a problem. There are a couple times, though, I will admit, even today, that I avoid getting what I want because I just don't want to say it. If I'm on like a first date or something, or if I'm at a professional event and I don't want to have to go through the anxiety of stuttering, I will just order something that's easier to say. But for the most part, I don't really have a problem. I may have to repeat, uh, you know, um, my order sometimes, but It's never really a problem. I feel like, and drive-throughs I think are the same thing as well. I can just go up there and talk, but there are some times where I have to repeat and you know um, repeat it again for them to recognize the order.
Those are all hard for us. And I mean, telephone, Liam, that was my nemesis. I mean, I could not talk on the phone to save my life. I would have to, I would have people make phone calls for me. I would pay people to make calls for me, and restaurants. I mean, like you, I mean, I had always two options. I could order something that would immediately come out, or my next option, I just point. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. And drive-throughs. Ooh, Liam, it's called survival. I bought a tape recorder. That had a little micro cassette tape. It's called survival, Liam. It's survival. And so I would record whatever that I wanted, be it a hamburger, a chicken, a taco. I mean, and then I would just hold it out, push play. I got my food. Yeah, it's called survival. Okay, now during this pandemic, I mean, it has pushed us, and by us, people who stutter, it pushed us out of our comfort zones, because we were at a point where, we were getting accustomed to talking to people face to face. Well, now in COVID, they took that away. And so now we do everything Zoom and Skype, and I mean, webcam this, and webcam that. How have you adjusted to this new normal?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard though, right? Because I've had many interviews too that were over Zoom, and I think having an interview or having a meeting on Zoom or some other similar platform, I think that creates a little more anxiety, because you always want to create a good first impression, and it's there's a little sense of comfort whenever that you go into an in-person interview, and you dress appropriately and you shake someone's hand and you're respectful. Just being in person, I think is better that way. But it's just weird being over a camera and laptop. It just doesn't seem like it's real. So I think I've had some more anxiety whenever I had to do an interview over Zoom. Um, but surprisingly, though, I think my speech has been pretty fluent though over these Zoom interviews. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm in the comfort of my own home. Um, but I do have that anxiety though, where it's just weird being in front of a camera, and you're always trying to make a good first impression. That's always at the number one point. And I guess it can be hard to do that, or it just doesn't seem like it's still normal. It doesn't seem like it's right just to have an interview over a laptop. Um, but surprisingly, I think my speech has been okay when using those platforms.
One of the things that we do in life is we adapt, we evolve, and with Zoom, and Skype, I had to adapt. So I practiced the P word, Liam. I practice. I call my buddies, let's hop on and do a Zoom. Da, 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 da. And so, after like 20 times, it's like, okay, I, I, I think I have this. Now, let me ask you an important question regarding Zoom. Do you look at your webcam as you are as you are talking, and or do you just turn your camera off? I'm
Uh,
curious.
I actually, well, like, because I was still in college for my last semester last year when we were in during COVID. So I think our requirements for the class was that we always had to had our cameras on. So if it was my turn to speak, I couldn't just turn it off or anything. So I unfortunately had to keep it on. But I didn't look at my camera. I kind of just like stared like to the wall in front of me and just like spoke. Uh,
Me too. I cannot look, at my webcam because I see every facial tick. I see every jerk of my mouth. I see my eyes going. I said, no, no. So I do what you do. I look at the wall. I talk and then it's called survival, Liam.
yeah, I think that definitely helps. But yeah, just looking at yourself, I think definitely can create more anxiety. But yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, had you ever have you ever experienced depression because of your stutter? And if you did you reach out and get help?
Um, I can't say that I've experienced depression on a large scale or anything, but I mean, there's been many times though when I was just, I was down at I was down um, and just upset of, how my fluency was going. And there's been many times where I felt hopeless and useless. Like there's one instance when, only a few years ago now, I was a junior in college, and we had a I was going to attend a job career fair, and I learned in one of my classes that whenever you go to a job fair, it's important to be prepared, important to dress the part, wear a suit and tie, all of that. Come with an elevator pitch, so you can try to market yourself into into a job. And I remember there's one class that I took. It was called Business Forum, and in that class, it always, hit those points of dressing for success, creating an elevator pitch. And one of the other points that was made was um, speak clearly and don't stumble over your words. Because obviously it's not a good thing when you're trying to make a good first impression, and you stutter in front of the recruiters or of the employers. And I remember the night before the career fair, I was just, I was very upset about that. I was like, how can I, there's no way that I'm going to avoid stuttering in this instance. There's no way that I'm not going to stutter. So I'm already prepared to fail, regardless of, how many hours that I've practiced or how many hours I've typed up my elevator pitch. At some point, I'm going to stutter. So I'm going to fail at this. And, I remember that, that one night just called my mom, and I was just, so frustrated about, like, how am I ever going to, get employed or, do well at this career fair? And I didn't, I chose not to attend because I was just, I was upset about that. And, I just knew at some point I was going to stutter. So, um, I was at a low point there. Um, but that's just a story of stuttering though. There's been many ups and downs. I've had, many positives. So I don't think I've experienced depression, but there's definitely times where I felt down, and an instance like that, is just that was hard, and probably one of my hardest moments where I just felt hopeless.
See, and we all have our good days, and then we have our bad days, and for a couple of us, those hard days tend to turn dark. So what I tell everybody, I'm happy that you reached out to your mom, that is awesome. I tell everybody, reach out, call, I mean, talk to anybody, a neighbor, a friend, a parent, just whomever, because we need to get it out. If we don't, and take it from Pedro, if you hold it in year after year after year, you know, uh, 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 it will come out with or without your permission.
Hmm.
And that happened to me. All of those, guilt, sh- shame. It all just hit me all at once. And I had to reach out. So what I tell everybody, if you are having a bad day, if things just aren't working out, just, I mean, r- 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 reach out and talk to anybody, because I believe, um, we are all here to help each other. We are all here to help one another. So I am thankful that you had your mom. How cool.
Yes, she was a big help throughout it all, and very glad that she's my mom. Very
Exactly.
helped me a
Exactly.
lot.
Now, you are over the age of 21, correct?
Yes, 23.
Okay. I just had to make sure. So, okay, if you ever partook in alcohol,
Yes.
did you find that your stutter was non non-existent, or did it make it worse?
For me personally, I think it made it worse. But I've been told by my friends and peers that it was better. But I don't believe that though. But whenever I do drink though, I don't drink to excess though. I only have maybe on a big night probably like four drinks, four light beers. But I have been told though that um I speak better. And I'm not sure if that was true or not. And maybe they were just messing with me and just wanted me to drink more. I don't know. But me personally though, I don't think it was better at all. I just think it was worse.
S- So, so I am of the opposite. Um, but here is the key, Liam. Two drinks, I'm good, and that's it. Two drinks, Pedro is having a great time. What stutter? I don't hear no stutter. And people have told me, you need to drink 24 hours a day. I said, no, no, and no. That isn't a viable option for Pedro, because, we have to work, we have to drive. So, yeah. But we're all different. When I'm asked this of my guests on this podcast, it's just split right down the middle. So yeah, it's
And yeah,
interesting.
I think if you do drink, I think the one thing that does help is obviously the feeling is like the anxiety kind of goes away in the moment. You're not really worried about what you worried about before. So I think that's one of the effects that it could be a positive rather than a negative. But I don't think it necessarily made me my fluency better.
S- So let's talk about our toolbox. Okay. I am twice your age, so I have a big toolbox that has all of my, tips and tricks. Some people call them having a crutch, but I call it I have to survive and get the word out. So we all have our toolboxes. So, have you ever used a secondary behavior to help you get out a word? Okay. Um, what I would do is, I would either tap my head or tap my leg, you know, or do anything to have a rhythm to help me get the word out. Have you ever done that?
Um, I I think the one technique that I kind of used was that um I I try to like sing. I guess I would try to make have a higher pitch. If I couldn't say a certain sentence, I would try to like sing, for a brief moment to try to get into rhythm and try to get on track and just to be able to get the word out. It just if you had a very long block, you just wanted to find the fastest method possible to just get it out. So I think the one time where I just um, singing for a brief moment, and I think that can help a little bit. And that's what I've used. I haven't used it a lot at all actually, but I have noticed that 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 can help if you're on a big block.
Um, that happened to me many a time. I would have a long block, and people would tell me, "Don't tell me it. I want you to sing it to me." And it's like, you don't want to hear me sing. It's like, no, just give me, give me some time. Okay, it will come out, but yeah, just hold on.
And the thing too that makes singing a negative thing is it's not normal to sing like you're just talking in a conversation. That robotic tone is just not normal. It's just not going to happen. But I think if you want to temporary use it as a tool, you could. But I do find it fascinating though that you could just sing and that eliminates the stuttering right away.
That is a head scratcher, Liam. Because when I sing, ooh, it just flows like butter. It's all good. Okay,
It
now
does.
here is a hot topic. Okay, we have a couple of hot topics, but here is the first one. So, do you let others finish your sentences?
Um, sometimes it just happens automatically. If I'm talking to a friend or you know um, or someone, they will finish a word or two in the sentence. So it just happens. Um, but I don't really get offended over it though. I think because like most of the time the person who I'm talking to is well aware that I have a stutter, and they're just trying to um, you know fasten up what I'm trying to say. Like if it's like a an emergency situation where I'm trying to say something out, there's they'll finish the sentence for me. So I don't get offended for it. Um, but there's been times though where I have been offended for it though. Um, but yeah, it does happen though, just on itself, on its own sometimes.
That happened to me growing up. It happened a lot. And um, l- like you, at a certain point, I hated it because it it made me feel less than. It made me feel like I was broken. And 9 times out of 10, they got it wrong, Liam. They got it wrong, which would just add to my anger, my frustration, my agitation, my irritation. It's like, no. However, now that I'm older, it's like, if you know what I'm trying to say, and you better get it right. But if you know what I'm trying to say, it is okay to help out Pedro. Now, it is always appropriate to ask, always ask, do you mind if you are having a block or a repetition? Do you mind if I help you? It is always, appropriate to ask because you don't know where that person is in their speech journey.
And yeah, and that's one thing. That's one important thing too is to be patient too. Like the other point of being patient, for parents or for teachers. And I could relate to you how frustrating it is when other people finish your sentences for you and they get it wrong. It's like, well, no. First of all, it's frustrating that you had to even do that in the first place. And second of all, no, you're wrong. This is, I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say something else. So you have to be patient with them. And yes, I think it's definitely appropriate to ask and have that courtesy, so it doesn't offend them.
See, and you hit it right on the nose. You have to be patient. I mean, it's what we want. Just I'm having a block. I'm going to get it out. But what I need for you to do is be patient, be respectful, and please, please, please keep the eye contact. Because I cannot tell you how many times, Liam, when I was talking to a person back in the day and I had a block, and when I would have blocks, my eyes would close and I would stop breathing. And after a certain point, when I got the word out and reopened up my eyes, the other person was gone. It's like, what? Where'd you go? And so it's like, all we want is to have you be patient, be respectful, and then, have the eye contact. Because, I am experiencing a block, but I'm going to push through. So, I mean, you make an excellent point. Patience, patience, patience.
Exactly. Respect and patience are definitely two very important things.
Yes, yes. Now, do you ever, experience negative self-talk? And if you do, how do you cope with it?
Yes, I do. I do experience negative self-talk. Um, sometimes I'll just experience thoughts saying like that they'll just produce negative outcomes. Like, well, what if if your presentation or your interview isn't going to go well? What if they have a problem with that? You know, what if they're going to um, discriminate? Um, but I think every rational person has negative thoughts on some level. So I try to not believe it, and staying positive is really the most important thing. I think even in life in general, like even in anything, you should try to push towards a positive state of mind, and really try to think about your previous success. So what I do is, if I'm having negative thoughts about an upcoming speaking event, I will try to block out those negative thoughts and try to focus on my positive memories. I had some positive memories from when I was able to give a presentation, and I was able to get the words out. So I have many positive memories to choose from that can help me be calm in the moment and help block out those negative thoughts, because you know positive mindset is very important. It really is. And I'm sure everybody has those negative thoughts, but you just have to try to ignore them and focus on the positives, and that really helps me.
See, and you bring up a great point. Having a positive mindset. Um, my negative voice, later on in life, I named him Oscar, Oscar the Grouch. And, I mean, he would rear his ugly head whenever I had to make a phone call or, job interview. And he would tell me, you can't do this. Hello, you can't talk. Why you going to do this? So for years, I listened. However, later in life, I developed positive mindset. And so when he would rear up, I would shut him down. And when I did that, it's like I have the power. Pedro is in control. Oscar is no longer in control of Pedro's life. I got this. I'm going to do this. If I stumble, oh well, I stumble. But I'm going to push through, and I'm never going to give up. I'm never going to quit because I know where I've been. Therefore, I will never go back there. I'm going to
Exactly.
keep pushing and have that positive mindset because Pedro is awesome. He can do anything. He just has a stutter. Oh well,
Exactly.
l- life goes on.
Uh,
Mhm. Go ahead.
Sorry. And you made a great point earlier, saying that us stutterers, us PWSs, we are tremendous people. We're educated. We have thick skin. We're able to deal with anything. And I think it's really important. Even yourself, that example. Um, you went to college, went to the military. Went to grad school. Like, that's like all those accomplishments are very impressive. So it's important for everyone to really try to think about their how far they've come, as opposed to worrying about the negative. And that's really important, just to have that positive mindset, and think about those positive moments are key.
That is a that is a great point. Yes, sir. Always have that positive mindset, and it will take time. I mean, there is no cookie cutter. You know, for me, I just had to practice and practice and practice and practice. And once I reached a point, I said, I think I'm good to go. However, if I had a block, oh well, I'm going to stop and breathe and keep on going because
Exactly.
it's called survival.
Survival.
Exactly. So here is a head scratcher, Liam. So when you are alone, can you speak without stuttering?
Yes. I will say that I'm about 95% to 99% fluent. There are some times when I speak to myself and I do have a couple of hiccups here and there. Like, it's not absolutely perfect, but no, for the most part, I am absolutely fluent. And I'm able to, speak fluently. And I bet if you ask, you know, the same question to other PWS, that they'll say the same thing, that they are fluent when they are alone, and they're able to, just go through it without stuttering. Um, do you feel the same? Do you feel the same way?
I am your opposite, Liam. I am your opposite. Whenever I am alone and I'm going through my, schedule in my head and, as I'm talking out loud, as we all do, I stumble, I block. When I talk to my dog, Ruby Jean, I still stutter. I still block. So, I mean, whenever I am asked the, 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 this of all of my guests, it's split right down the middle. 50 do and 50 don't. So it's just interesting.
Uh, that is very interesting, because I've had contacted probably 3 or 4 other PWSs, and they will say for the most part that they're fluent. But yeah, that is, I mean, stuttering is a mystery, though, right? I mean, there's no
It is.
immediate cure. There's no immediate cure for it, and I can't explain, why, you know, why I am more fluent in front of other people, because stuttering is very a mystery. Like, here's one example. Like, um, uh, sometimes I can be more fluent in front of a complete stranger than my best friend or my mom. It's just like, why is that? It has nothing to do with being anxious or being worried, but that is just another example of the strangeness and and all the mysteries of stuttering. But that is very interesting, though.
See, it's a head scratcher.
It really is.
Now, do you feel that your stutter gets better or worse if you are tired, exhausted, or stressed out?
Yes, I definitely think it is worse if I'm tired or stressed. If I get under 5 hours of sleep a night, and sometimes it does happen, then I do notice that it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult to function, altogether. But I think it's definitely harder to speak if you're tired or stressed, and especially when you're stressed too, when your heart is pounding, and you're sweaty, you have sweaty hands, and you're all red. That definitely can make it worse. Um, so I do my best to try to get at least 7 hours of sleep a night if possible, because I think I do definitely recognize a difference when I'm more well rested, as opposed to when I'm not.
See, and the hypnotherapist that I had met with um, while I was in the military, he had stressed 8 hours. 8 hours. Your body needs 8 hours to have it repair and regenerate. Da, da, da. And as you know, well, I mean, if you're in the military, I mean, you don't get 8 hours, maybe 5 hours. They have you up at odd times and guard duty and this and that and other. And, you know, nowadays, I mean, with all that's going on in the world, I get on average 5 to 6 hours. And, that's how I have always done, during weekends, I cannot wake up late. L- L- Liam. Now I have a teenager. He wakes up at 12 noon. Go figure. But for me, I am up at 6 a.m. and that's what I have always done. So I mean, I 100% comprehend that 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 we need 8 hours, and but for me, I mean, that's a goal for me.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, and life happens too. Like, sometimes it's really hard to get to even get that 7 to 8 hours. When especially when if you're a student, or you have a full time job, or you have kids in the equation. Like, it's really hard because you have so many constraints. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely important to try to hit at least 6 hours of sleep. I think 6 hours of sleep is doable. But for me, anything under 4 or 5 hours, I think I do run into a problem of not being fluent sometimes.
See, and you know, during college, we would pull all-nighters. I mean, the whole weekend we would be up 24 hours a day due to a test, a paper, a presentation. I mean, we would pull all-nighters, and it's like, I don't even know how I survived because, yeah, that was very intense back in college. So, yeah, I don't know how I survived, but you know, thankfully I did. So it turned out well. Now, okay, has this happened to you, Liam? Okay, let's say you are going to a place and they have an admin person to, have you all checked in, be it, a medical office, dental office, and they ask you your name and then you have a block. But I'm not talking an ordinary block, Liam. I'm talking is a block. And then after a certain point, the admin person will ask you, "Did you forget your name?" Has that ever happened to you, Liam?
Yes, and I have a pretty unique example that I'm sure you can relate to. Like the one example was when I was in seventh grade. I was actually in a military youth organization called the U.S. Naval Sea Cadet Corps, and every summer we would have to attend a 1 week boot camp. So um, when I was seventh grade, I went to boot camp, and I was with my squadron or a platoon, whatever you want to call it. But there's probably a group of 40 or 50 cadets in the room, and we were in a classroom. And the commanding officer, he's like, he said, every cadet stand up and introduce yourselves. Um, and of course, that is always that is not your friend. If you stutter, that's always creates anxiety. And then when it came my turn to stand up, and you know, this is a military program too, so you have to, address you have to address them, in a manner of respect. Yes sir, no sir, and you have to, state, my name is Cadet Snell. So there's more stress added to it. But when it came my turn to speak, and say my name, I couldn't say it. And of course, the commanding officer in front of the entire group was like, "What? You forgot your own name?" And I didn't want to admit to the entire group that I stuttered, so I just kind of shrugged it off and be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So that was one instance when, but it's always frustrating when you have to do those introductions.
See, and you mentioned the I word, introductions. And so Liam, let's go all the way back to grade school. Let's go to first grade. So as you know, you have to give an intro on the first day of school, right? And so, I mean, you hear the teacher and they want us to stand up and tell our name and da 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 da, you know, the whole day for every single class. So I did that once. It it was horrible. I mean, it was tragic. It was horrible, and they were laughing. You know, they were, pointing at me and saying, Porky Pig, because he had a stutter, and so it happened one time, Liam, one time, and so Pedro said. So I told myself this will never happen again. So I missed the first 2 days of school all the way until high school. And then, Liam, you don't f- forget that type of trauma. So I did it in undergrad. And then I did it in graduate school. I missed the first 2 days. And then on the third day, Pedro would just walk on in and is like, it is all good. I don't have to say anything. I just have to get to work. So I mean, yeah, it is rough doing intros. And
Yeah,
I mean, you know, God bless you. You did it. But for me, I was like, no, no.
no,
I
and
ducked out every time.
yeah, that would happen every single year when I was in grade school, through kindergarten up until college, and like, it's to mention anxiety too. Like you'd always like the anxiety first day of school. Like when I was very little, probably like in elementary school, I would get so upset, so anxious that I become nauseous, because those first day of school was the most trauma and suffering that it really was the most trauma and suffering that I've experienced. And most kids, people who don't stutter, they're like, oh, the first day of school is not so bad at all. It's so easy. It's a shortened day. It's a half day. All you do is show up. You know, you get your books or whatever, and it's a very easy day. But for me, it was hard because not only is it a new change, it's a new change because it's a new teacher, it's new class, new classroom. Sometimes it's a new school that you're going to, and on top of it, you have a stutter, and you're going to have to introduce yourself, and meet your teacher and meet your new classmates. So that was always really stressful for me, and even up to college too. Even in my last year of college, I wasn't that anxious, to the point where I was nauseous, but I did have that anxiety of just going to class and having to introduce yourselves, and and I've been classrooms, in my college classrooms, that were very large in size. Some of those intro level classes, you have 100 kids plus, um, and you have to go and introduce yourselves in front of all those 100 people. That's very frustrating.
Ooh, it is. Plus, we learn to adapt and overcome, because what I had to do, because I knew I cannot do an intro to save my life. And so what I did, in my bathroom mirror every day, I practice. Hey, good morning. I'm Pedro. How may I help you? Hey, good morning. How are you? It's Pedro. Hey, how you doing? It's Pedro. How are you? I practice every single day in my bathroom mirror until it became rote. And once it became rote, I would try it out in the real world. But I would always have what I might call a bumper word, like, hey, good morning, I'm Pedro, how may I help you? Hi, good morning. I mean, I would always have that bumper word, but I did it. I had adapted in my own little way. And so that way, I could handle doing my intro. But it took practice, days and months and months. But I'm there. Nowadays, whew, it rolls off the tongue. Hey, good morning, I'm Pedro. How are you? Because, I spent all that time, Liam, practicing and practicing and practicing. And now it's like, woo, it's like butter. It just comes out. So,
and that's a very important point too, because when you practice a certain line or a certain word many times over, eventually you'll have an easier time to say that. And like in my speech therapy, I've said my own name, Liam Snell, probably a million times by now, and now I think my name is probably the easiest thing for me to say. Liam Snell just comes off the tongue, and I never have a problem with that. Mostly. But if you practice a certain line over and over again, eventually it will come easier. So that is a good point.
Yes, I tell everybody, practice, practice, practice. All of the greatest coaches of all time in basketball and in baseball, and just, I mean, what they are telling you, it works. But you have to put in the time. You have to put in the effort, because this is hard work. This is hard work. What the world doesn't understand, what we go through on a daily basis, an hourly basis, a minute by minute basis, they have no clue. What takes a person recording their voicemail, it might take them half a minute. For Pedro, it takes me 1 hour. So we have to work 20 times harder than everybody else to just do the most basic of tasks. So it's all about education. Okay,
Exactly.
now, do you consider stuttering a disability?
That's another great question. And I think the answer really depends on the PWS's opinion. Because there's a wide range of um, level of severity. There's some people who stutter who are very severe, and some who just stutter here and there. So I think if you're severe, you're more inclined to think that it is a disability, because you may have more because it because stuttering may limit you to more things. For me personally, I'll consider myself to be a moderate stutterer, and surprisingly enough, here in this podcast, I think I'm speaking better than I would in any daily situation. But um, I don't think my stuttering is severe, but I also think that it is recognizable to anyone who I talk to. At some point, they're going to recognize that I have a stutter. So I do think that it falls into the middle. Um, but personally, for my own opinion of myself, I don't think it's a disability, just because I've accomplished so much already, and I continue, and um, you know I have aspirations in achieving even more goals. So I don't label it a disability for myself, but that's really up to anyone's interpretation, and I'm sure any PWS will have their own opinion on that. And I've met a couple of PWSs who have said that it is a disability, that it inhibits their life to the point where they can't do many functions. They can't um, have a job, or they can't go to school. So I think there's some it depends on your level of severity. Um, But regardless, though, even if you are a severe stutterer, always try to keep that positive mindset, and just to state yourself that you can accomplish your goals. Try to number one is to be positive, and really try to find some techniques and tricks to help you, and practice, practice, practice. And because there are techniques out there that really help, that I've learned, that I think make a world of difference. And by no means am I fluent at all. I'm not fluent at all, but I think I've come to a point where I don't label it a disability. But then again, it's up to your interpretation.
Right, right, yes. Uh, uh, I agree with you 100%. Now, did you ever think that your stutter might hinder your career path?
Yes, I have, um, because my career path is I still have aspirations in going into law enforcement, whether it be on the federal, state, municipal level. Um, and that's a tough career for someone who stutters, because I've really thought about it too. You're in a position of authority, you're enforcing a law, you're going to be in situations where it's stressful, and you're dealing with um, you know tough people, and it's your job to be clear. And I've met a lot of people in that career field who say that, yeah, it's really important to not have a stutter in that career. It's that is not the career, that is not the career to stutter. But then I've also met people who have stuttered, and it's just they're fine. um so, but whenever I do have those um second thoughts about that, I do try to remain positive and think about how far I've come. You know, um, in school, I've given presentations for 120 students. And if I'm able to do that, then I'm able to do anything. And I still have many struggles, but so does everybody. But I'm very confident that I'll be able to pursue that uh, despite my stutter.
See, and that is awesome. It's all about having a positive mindset because, had I listened to all those people back in the day, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this because of my stutter, I would just be home collecting a monthly disability check. But now, like you, I have I have been on stage and spoken to 100, 200, 300 people. And it's awesome, Liam. I mean, I can't describe the feeling, but once I am on stage and they hand you that microphone, it's go time. It's magic. I go up there and then I always do my icebreaker. Every time I do my icebreaker and it works every time. And once they laugh, I got them. And then I go on with my presentation. And, plus I tell them, so if I get hung up on any word in the presentation, and if you know what I'm trying to say, I have received help from the audience. How cool is that? They would yell out the word, yes, you got it right. And then I would keep on going. So, it is, to hear the roaring applause when you're done, giving a presentation or a talk or whatnot, to hear that roaring applause, it's like wow. It's like wow. It's like validation. All of my hard work that led me up to this day. And here I'm hearing applause and people whistling. It's the best feeling in the world.
It really is, and I've experienced that too. Where just a feeling of going up there and speaking to a live audience and being able to go through it is one of it really is probably one of the best feelings in the world. Like the one instance where in college, I was I notified the professor that I stuttered, and he was very supportive. He was like, I think you should, despite your stutter, you should go up there and just be proud of who you are and say what you have to say. And I did that, and he was very proud of me, and it was very like just having that feeling, of knowing that you went up there and you were um, you did it and you delivered what you had to say, and you did it, is probably one of the best things in the world. And I always try to remember that instance, and I always try to remember a different instance as well. Was when I was in high school. I gave a presentation, and one of the worst presentations I ever had. I stuttered on every single word, and it was horrible. But the one positive thing that came out of that was when the teacher for that class, it came up to me, about a week later. I was like, Liam, I respect and admire you, for you to be able to be that brave and he was serious. He's like, I really respect you, and to have that courage really speaks a lot about your character. And that just another important thing to realize, that us PWS is, we're brave and we can do amazing things. But yeah, there's that feeling of being able to um, go through a presentation, and even have that applause is truly amazing, and it really is a result from all the hard work that you've put in, and the practice, and the repetition, and having that positive mindset. It is truly amazing.
See, and you bring up a great point. When we are about to do something big, hop on stage, speak, all of those feelings that we know them because we've had them for decades. They're in your tummy. What I had learned is that in having those feelings, it's it is letting you know that you are about to do something amazing, that you are going to do something so awesome that when you are all done, you are going to just be on such a high, because previously all those feelings would just make me ill. I mean, the headaches and the nausea and everything. However, when I turned it around, when I when I flipped that switch and told myself, okay, I have all of these feelings in me, that's just telling me that I am about to do something awesome. Once I act, act, not acknowledged it, when I would hop on stage, it was like it was just awesome. And all that hard work. I mean, it is awesome to have the people around you like him who was lifting you up.
And I think that's really important too. Like, for what that you're doing is amazing to be able to go up there and speak, in front of, those 300 people. Like, that's crazy. And the one comment that my one teacher made to me was, he put this in perspective. He's like, there are people who don't stutter, who fear public speaking more than they fear death. People who don't stutter. So if you do stutter, I can't even imagine how that feeling is. But for you to be able to do what you're doing and go up there and present, in front of those large crowds is truly amazing. And every day, I still have these insecurities and anxieties about stuttering, but it's just truly amazing though the journey that I've been on, and it's inspirational, the journey that you've been on too as well, and to hear all of your guests, their journey is just amazing, and it's a great battle, and I just love hearing that.
Awesome, sir. Now here is another hot topic. Okay, dating. Dating is stressful for everybody. But for a PWS, come on, let's keep it real. It's a little bit more difficult. How did you navigate dating with having a stutter?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always had that anxiety, before the first dates. You can all imagine, the sweating, and sometimes the being nauseous and all of that. Um, but luckily, after the first date or so, from there, all the anxiety went away. It was just that icebreaker. And all the relationships that I've had, they were all accepting of my stutter. It was never an issue at all. They never gave it a second thought after I told them. After I told them, they just moved on, and we talked about something else. But once I got past that first date, and the first dates were also really nerve wracking, because you have to impress them, and but you also have a stutter too as well. So you're trying to communicate your words. But after that first date, from there, it was it was just a smooth ride, from there. So that's how it went.
What what I might tell a lot of PWSs is the heart don't care if you're stuttering. The heart don't care if you're bald. The heart don't care if you're bow-legged. I mean, the um the okay. One of the cool things that my stutter has taught me. Okay, and later I will be asking you that question. Um, what my stutter has taught me is that it shows me who people really are, and in dating, there are a lot of people who are very superficial and da, da, da. But if you have that one person who doesn't really care, they like you for you, okay, that is awesome. Because at the end of you know of the day, they like you for just you. So 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 one of the gifts that my stutter has taught me is that it will show me who people really are, and it lets me know, um, are you worthy of my time? So in dating, it also applies. If you like me for me, that is awesome. Now, if you don't like me because of my stutter, that's on you. Have a nice day.
Exactly. And
Bye.
it's not your problem. It's their problem of being, having that lack of character, because it is all about character. That's number one thing. And stuttering or any other aspect, shouldn't play a role at all. Just your character and the content of your character. But that's a good point also.
Now, Liam, what do you think about all this new technology? You have Alexa, you have Google Home, and then you have Siri. Do you think that all of this new technology is helpful or hurtful for people who stutter?
I actually, I'm not sure. I haven't really, used those applications before. I mean, I've used uh, Siri a few times, but I've learned that it is frustrating though whenever you're trying to talk into Siri and then they miss, um, they don't understand what you're trying to say. Like whenever you're trying to talk into Siri and they produced something else than what you were trying to say. Um, but I do think that's an interesting topic. What do you think?
Well, okay, they don't give you time to respond. So if you are asking for help, you know, they only give you like 1 second or possibly two. And for Pedro, I need at least half a minute to breathe. So I had difficulty with, them all. My Miss UV is, voice activated. You just speak, but I don't do that. I push a button. I would rather push a button and start my vehicle than be there for half an hour or 1 hour trying to, have it turn on by my voice. So I'm not there yet. Okay, so what is a challenge, speech wise, that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Yeah, I think the challenge was I can relate back to college when I had I was in a class where um, participation was a major part of the class. I think it accounted for 50% of your overall grade. So um, if you didn't speak, then you're going probably going to fail the class. Um, so that was a big challenge, a big obstacle, and it was tough too because it was a large classroom. You know, probably over like 50 kids or so, and I had to speak. Um, but I chose to um, stick it out, and I was able to get through it. But I definitely had all that anxiety like every single week of going to class. Um, but I was able to stick it out.
How cool. How cool. You never gave up. You kept on going. You kept on going. Now, do you think it is okay to stutter, or is it important to keep ch- chasing the fluency gods?
Well, that's a very important question because you know right now there is no cure for stuttering. It's there's no immediate cure. Um, so uh, I'm not sure if it's ever possible to be 100% completely fluent. Um, even the people who don't stutter are not 100% fluent. Sometimes here and there, if they give a presentation or if they speak, they have a hiccup. They have a minor hiccup here and there. But what I will say though, I think it is important to um, try to improve your fluency by practicing. What I do is I say my affirmations every single day, which is positive affirmations, and that helps create a positive um, environment. And speaking aloud, I can't say that enough. I think speaking out loud really helps. It makes a world of difference. Um, so for me right now, I'm nowhere near fluent, but I think my practice and my therapy so far have really improved me as a person and it improved my stutter. So I would say it's important to practice and try to improve it because you said before, like you're, you're never going to chase perfection. Um, so you're never going to be 100% fluent, but it's always good to do the best you can and try to improve the best you can.
See, and that, I mean, is truly awesome. So you do what I do. I wake up, I do my affirmations. It is super important. Oh, you just hit on it. Ooh, I have goosebumps, Liam. I wake up, I do my affirmations, I do my mindful meditation, the breathing. And so, people ask me, do you do you do you do that for your speech? So I tell them I do it to handle everything because
Exactly.
life right now is crazy and chaotic and stressful. And so what helps me is doing my morning affirmations. I do my mindful meditation. I do my diaphragmatic breathing, and when I'm done, I have my book and read one page out loud, and then I start my day. And let me tell you, it feels awesome. I mean, I can just take on everything. However, if I do have a block, it's okay. The world isn't gonna stop because I can't say my name.
Exactly.
I'm gonna breathe and I will carry on. Pedro will never give up. Never ever.
Exactly. As a great plan. They do that every single morning. I mean, it is a sacrifice of having to sacrifice that time, and you know, everyone has busy lives. They wake up very early. But if you can set aside, even 15, 20 minutes, of your morning just by saying your affirmations or just talking out loud. I think that does make a difference. And over time, I think you will see a difference. That's very important.
Yes, I mean, um, it helps you handle the whole day.
It does.
So here's a deep question. What has your stutter taught you?
It's taught that I'm brave, resilient. The same thing that we talked about before. Despite having this, we're still able to live life and pursue our dreams. Um, and it also taught me too that that I have developed a sense of thick skin. I'm sure every PWS at some point in their life has experienced some sort of bullying, and I have on some sort, but not a big level at all. But still, dealing with stuttering and dealing with it every single day, you still have that thick skin. You still have that thick skin. But regardless, though, it has taught me that I'm courageous and I'm able to go after my goals. And there's still moments too where I feel insecure, and sometimes my stuttering does limit me to do a lot of things because it still does. I'm not perfect. There are certain situations. If I'm at a restaurant, sometimes I may order something else. Sometimes I may have stuttering, you know, beat me in that instance. They might have won in that certain example, but for the most part, um, I'm still pursuing my goals and still trying to tackle it and dealing it head on.
How cool. And I mean, you were talking about, thick skin. It is important because, but back in the day, I had paper thin skin. And so, all of what the bullies have, told me, I believed. I am stupid. I am dumb. I do have a form of mental re- retardation. However, l- l- later in life, I had that mindset. Said, no, no, no. Pedro is awesome. If you make fun of me, th- that is on you because hurt people. So Pedro is going to be awesome, and Pedro still has a stutter. Pedro is confident, and even though I'm confident, I still have a block. But guess what? It's all right because Pedro is awesome. So if you want to laugh at me and make fun of me, you go on right ahead because hurt people. You go have a nice day. Pedro is going to be all right. So yeah, awesome, awesome.
Exactly.
So what advice would you give to another person who stutters?
Just the same mindset, just to um, yeah. I think the one takeaway from this podcast and all of your guests is that you're not alone. I've watched several of your podcasts, and you're not alone. This is a community um, of people who stutter, and there's at this point there's thousands of people in the world who have this and who have dealt with the same instances. So you're not alone. Um, so I would just say just to hang in there. Try to utilize all of your resources. I think we live in an age where technology is a big part of our lives, which is very important. So I think it's important for people who stutter to um, utilize their resources, maybe do some research, try to find a technique or research a technique that that might help you, and try to apply that, and just keep on keeping on, and just keep moving forward and staying positive too. Number one, staying positive.
How cool. And that is awesome. Truly awesome advice. So here is our last question, and it's a doozy. So, if you had the opportunity to give the world some insight about stuttering, what message would you convey?
Um, I would say that uh, that for everyone who I say for everyone to be patient with this. Is that I think the number one thing, and what the pet peeves for us stutterers is that we hate when people finish our sentences, and there are a couple of stereotypes too about stuttering. That stuttering affects intelligence. That if you stutter, you have some sort of other disorder, and that plays a factor into discrimination. But I think the one message is that this does not define anyone at all. Regardless, anyone is capable of achieving their goals just like anyone else, and no one should discriminate um, at all against that. Um, so I think more awareness to this is always a good thing, and it's always great to see um, PWSs go on and achieve great things, and it's going to continue to be that way. So it's a truly amazing to see all of that.
That is an awesome message. And, my goal is your goal. I want to just tell the world how awesome that we are and that we can do anything. We can do anything. So, so I want to thank you, Liam. I've had the best conversation with you. I can't believe 2 hours have already gone by. I mean, this has been awesome. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Uh, uh, I truly believe that there's healing in sharing. So I want to thank you for sharing your story with me today.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me as a guest on this podcast. I enjoyed listening to all of your episodes, and I believe in the same message as well, that spreading awareness to this definitely helps on some level, and it's definitely making a positive influence in someone else's mind. And I think that's one of the main things, is to be positive. And I love the idea of this, that we're all in the same community, we're all in this together, and what you're doing with this podcast is truly amazing. And thank you again. And I'm just looking forward to hearing other guests share their story as well.
How cool. Thank you, sir. Now, I have listeners from all over the world. I mean, I'm in 58 countries. How cool is that?
It's
I
amazing.
I am blessed to have this platform. Now, if one of my guests wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Well, I'm on two social media. I'm on Instagram, Liam_Snell, and then also Facebook, which is just Liam Snell. Um, those are two social media sites that I use.
Okay. We will have those links in the podcast notes. And just, one more time, sir, just thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been an awesome conversation. You are hashtag awesome. You are hashtag courageous and brave and awesome. And so I want to say just thank you, thank you, thank you for speaking with me today.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing more episodes. Thank you so much.
Now, down the road, okay, let's do this again, because I know, Liam, that you have a bright future in law enforcement. I know you will be doing some awesome things. So once you're in that position, let's do this again and give us an update.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to staying in touch. Thank you so much.
Awesome, sir. Thank you so much. You take care, be well, and stay safe.
You do the same. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.